On page 5, it begins a 3-page summary of most of the negotiation situations that we get into in real estate. So just to make sure we're all on the same page, page 5, number 1, these are negotiation situations between a solo agent and their broker. So do many of your brokers negotiate with you in terms of splits or anything else, depending on the brokerage? Sometimes it's a one-size-fits-all. Number 2 is when you're an agent negotiating with your seller for your own benefit, your broker's benefit. We negotiate with our clients and on behalf of our clients. Okay? So all these things typically are in the listing agreement. 2C5, compensation. Number 1, I asked earlier, how many of you charge a retainer fee? Only a couple of you raised your hand. We'll talk about that further. Any of you, number 2, 2C5-2, any negotiated a performance bonus with your client? So there are different ways to do bonuses. I come from the corporate world where the higher you go in the organization, the more your compensation is tied to performance. So you get a base salary, you get a bonus based on profit, and then you get stock options when you get higher in the organization. So I'm geared to incentivized compensation systems. We're actually in a compensation industry. If we get paid by commission, incentivized industry, get paid by commission, and that's an incentive for us to work harder. We'll talk later about whether they're very effective in terms of incentives go. Next page, 6. Number 3 is when you're an agent, again, negotiating with your buyer for your own benefit, your broker's benefit. Many of these are in the buyer-broker agreement. How many of you always use a buyer-broker agreement with your buyers? Let the records show maybe a quarter of the class. I find across the country, and this really struck me as odd when I first got into real estate, 100% of the time we take a listing agreement with the seller, right? Will your broker let you do what's called an open listing with the seller, not an exclusive listing? Most brokers won't take an open listing. But on the buyer side, usually 10% or less of the time do agents always use a buyer-broker agreement. And when I looked at that and saw that, I asked the obvious question, why? So why don't buyers' agents typically use a buyer-broker agreement? Lazy? Lazy can be one reason. A lot of buyers don't want to sign it, which means the buyer's agent isn't persuasive in getting the buyer to understand why it's in their self-interest to execute a document like this. So we'll talk about it later. On page 6, then, you'll see number 4, agent to agent. This is when you're an agent negotiating on your own behalf for your own benefit with another agent. Typically, it's co-brokes could fall into that category. Referral fees fall into that category. The other items are listed there. Number 5, team members. Some brokerages encourage teams within the brokerage. It's kind of like a mini brokerage within the brokerage. So Rainmaker is a generic term. That's the team leader and the team member. The negotiations here you'll see are similar to the solo agent and broker negotiations. On page 7, number 6, is when you're an agent negotiating for your benefit or your client's benefit with third-party resources. So it could be with a home inspector to get your client a better rate, potentially with home warranty companies if you can do that. Number 7, then, is when you're an agent representing your client, negotiating on behalf of that client with another agent negotiating on behalf of their client. So on page 8, you'll see a summary of the benefits for each of these situations with a higher skill level in negotiation, what you can do, what you will achieve. Starting at the top, agent negotiating with a seller. All the way down at the bottom, you'll see agent with broker. Across from that, you'll see good luck. Brokers have what we call reward-punish power. They can hire you, fire you, let you go. That gives them some leverage.